Okay, so we're going to get started in just a few minutes. We'll just wait for the last few to come in, and then we will get started. I'm just going to put one more slide up for you to give a bit of a read before we get going, and then we'll start. Okay, I think we're ready to go. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here tonight. Would have been beautiful to do this in person, but having it online is still really nice to see so many people take the time today to meet with our staff and hear about our assessment practices here at Glenlawn. So I would like to start by acknowledging, even though we're not here at Glenlawn, that we do reside on Treaty 1 territory, as most of you do where you're watching from, I'm sure, that we're in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Innuak, and Dakota peoples and homeland of the Métis Nation. The next part of our treaty acknowledgement always changes a little bit for me, depending on the, where we are, what's happening in the world in that moment. And so, of course, after this weekend, made me think a lot about our Indigenous communities and how we're all trying to be on a path of truth and work together. So with this acknowledgement, we demonstrate our unwavering gratitude for Indigenous people and communities for preserving this land before Western arrival and after. We celebrate a renewed relationship with one another, moving forward as we all learn and grow as one. So we continue to integrate Indigenous perspectives into our assessment practices and our learning here at Glenlawn. And as you know, and some will speak of tonight, there's lots of learning that has happened in the month of September for us, and we're very thankful for that. Okay, this is a slide that was up right before I started. This is the foundation on what we believe here at Glenlawn. The next few slides are going to show they're directly from a teacher PD session, our staff meetings. So I just want you to know what we talk about here at school helps to sort of understand why we do what we do. So our philosophy here, of course, is to support students have success where they find success. It's not to compare, not to sort and rank. We do believe in mastery, independence, generosity, and belonging at the core. So that is what drives all of our programming here, regardless of whether it's teaching pedagogy or assessment or grading. So this is just a slide that we just talk about that we don't, assessments aren't all exactly the same for every child. It doesn't need to be. Sameness isn't fairness. Students as well as adults can demonstrate their learning and their content knowledge in a variety of ways. It doesn't have to be done one way and then be graded on whether or not you can do that way the best. It really not so much as that knowing the content, but can you do something that is project based or a test or a presentation. Those are all three very different things that someone would succeed at through a skill set that they might have that has actually nothing to do with the content that we're trying to see if you've learned. It might have to do with your skill set on being able to communicate or things like that. So it doesn't look the same for everyone. This is also something when we talk about assessing versus grading here. So grading is putting that final number on something. Assessing is what we do when we work through content with kids and skill building. So if you can name it, you can assess it. If you can discuss it, you can assess it. If you can reflect on it, you can assess it. If you're developing it, so if we say we're developing a skill, we better be assessing it, because then how do we know if we're getting anywhere on that development of that skill? Do we need to change what we're doing? Do we need to add something else in because the skill is not getting built the way that we were wanting it to? But you don't have to grade it. You don't have to put a number on all these things. For a child to know where they're at and how they can increasingly get better from a personal standpoint, not in a comparison to the next person. We also use a lot of data here at Glenland to inform our thinking. So this is just one sort of clip from the program we use to get our assessment data. In here, what you can see is that the dark green and light green are really good. They're someone achieving over 70% of the time. And so you can see that at Glenlawn, we are a very high achieving school. We take pride in that, but we also take pride in knowing that it's never good enough. There is still yellow and there is still red and there is still purple in that data. As you can see at grade 10, is where you see the most yellow and red. Therefore, that has driven us to make decisions around keeping the DEN system and moving it into grade 10. We see a ton of success in grade 9. And we are wanting to mimic that success, hopefully in grade 10. So that's why we've made the changes we have this year. We've used data. In this form, we've used it in anecdotal, we've used it in other ways that we're showing student success with their skill building. Grade 10 is a very tough year developmentally from a teenage brain standpoint as well. So we were wanting to have the same supports there that we do in grade 9. So we're constantly looking at data, constantly going deeper into the data. So looking at what courses, what teaching practices are working, and just seeing if we can continually get better so that eventually we would not see any yellow or red. But knowing, of course, that sometimes it is successful for a child to be in the 60 to 69% range at the end of it all. That is success. Someone coming to school and working through what they need to work through each day is success as well. It's not just all around content knowledge. So the DEN system, you hear us talk about this. So on this call, we have grade 10 families that heard some of this last year in grade 9. Those same families will hear a little bit different, be like, oh, you changed up your grade 9 system a bit. Yes, we did. And we are, so grade 9 looks a little bit different than it did last year. And then of course, grade 10, it looks significantly different than it did the year before because we're removing some of the things that we are tried and true and it's shown us through years of student success works in grade 9. We've moved to grade 10 and that's what we call the DEN system. So 4 core courses, ELA and social studies, ELA and geography together, same teacher, and math and science together, same teacher all year long to build those skills and those relationships for an entire year. So classmates stay the same, their community stays the same, and that they have 2 teachers instead of 4 that they would have if those were separated out. The integrated delivery for English and the humanities, that works very well. Math and science doesn't work as well. So it's not as integrated as you might imagine in utopia, but we do as much integration as we can. And then the DEN teachers work together to enhance that integration. So for example, geography and grade 10 geography and grade 10 science have a lot of similar outcomes. And so they will, even though there's 2 different teachers, will work together to achieve those outcomes. So that's where there's some integration through that as well. We do this because we've seen it work. Like I said, this is supported by the data. There's just additional time for kids to build skills, not only academic skills, but also their social skills with their peers, their confidence, their sense of belonging, things like that. So that's why we continue to do it. That's why we've extended it. And to be honest, we've actually extended it into grade 11. We're doing a pilot project in grade 11 for grade 11 history and English in 3 out of our 7 sections of that to see if we can gain success in grade 11 as well. So this is our teams. So it looks a little bit bigger in grade 10. We had a retirement on June 30th last year. So we had to shuffle things up a little bit. So although there's some distinct advantages to having some of our teachers become full-time with us and be able to be a part of the system, it did kind of mix up the numbers. So it's grade 10 has a few more people involved. Just because of that retirement. So we made it work for kids. No kids ever changed their schedules, but we have some teachers that definitely took one for the team in terms of what they were teaching changed up a little bit come September. So our teams in grade 10, Mr. Bunkowski and Ms. Perney, chronomoys. We'll go through all of these. I'm actually not going to read them all to you, but the in brackets, it's how many dens they have, which means how many groups of kids they have. So that's what's in brackets. And then the bottom, so Friesen and Deer. So Carly Friesen and myself, we look after all the grade 9. So we have 7 dens, and Miss O'Connor and Miss Stevenson have 8 dens. So that's why it looks like that. In grade 10, of course, the math is in 2 different, there's intro to applied and pre-calculus, and then essentials. So there's a bit more math there in terms of dividing it up, where you don't see that in grade 9. So those are our teams. We will talk a little bit. We did some things on purpose. So Ben Story, who has been a long time grade 9 math science den leader, we purposely had him do grade 10. We wanted to see another sort of mini pilot is watching kids loop with Ben. So having Ben in grade 9 and in grade 10. So there's about 10 kids that stayed with him through both grades to see if we can build some skills that way and how successful that is, but also to kind of take over some of the philosophy we've been doing to 9 to 10. And the flip side of that, the new 10 team has been instrumental in bringing new life to the 9 team as well, in terms of some of our assessment practice and really us continuing to be progressive with that. So it's really a neat team. So some things were done on purpose. Mr. Bunkowski, Brett Bunkowski, does grade 9 and 10 as well. And I'll have to admit that wasn't on purpose. That was part of that retirement. But he doesn't have as many kids that looped because we did the looping specifically with Ben. I do stop talking soon, and it's teacher turn soon, very soon. Okay, so just want to, we will come back to this, but just there's 4 reporting periods in the school year. / you get a report, kids report card. So 3 of them show the progress of their learning. So November, January, and April. And what you'll see on the report card, it looks a little bit different. And then in June is a summary of their learning, of all that progress. And that's the only time you'll see an actual percentage grade, because the province makes us do it. Basically, put a number on your child at the end. Prior to that, there will be no percentage grade, and we'll understand, the teachers will tell you a little bit about that as we go along. But that's sort of the progress you'll see throughout on those report cards. And then we'll talk a little bit about communication. But there's so much communication aside from these report cards that there's nothing on these report cards that you wouldn't and shouldn't already know about your child's learning. So the content delivery, this is just quick. There is it would be very hard to ask a child to open up their binder and show you what they're doing. They would have to open up their computer and open up Teams, and then they would have to show you in there kind of what's going on. So that's where you would see all the content they're doing, the work they're doing. If they're doing like a content check through a forms document, you might see some real-time feedback with that. Lots of collaboration going on and reflections all within Teams. So some feedback with the teachers. The EAs are also have surfaces and part of all of their Teams groupings as well. So the platforms are very much electronic. Certainly there's some things that are done on paper, and if a child is more successful on paper, we will go back to paper. For the most part, you'll see everything through your child's Teams account. So you'd have to ask them to open up their computer to take a look. Okay, so we are now going to meet some staff. This is our math science team, grade 9 and 10 math science team. So some of them are going to talk tonight, but to avoid a whole bunch of people just stopping and talking the whole time, there'll just be a few. So right now, I'm going to shut off my camera, and I am going to get the camera of just Mr. Pellin, Eugene Pellin, because he is not talking tonight. Now there's Brett Bonkowski's, but I do want you to see what they look like, and they can quickly say hi. Yeah, so guys, go ahead.
Hi, folks.
Oh, Brett's still muted.
Been a while since I was doing the online thing. Didn't have my microphone on there. Hi, everybody. I have 1 9 den and 1 10 den, and I'm also coaching some grade 9 volleyball. So for some of you, that's something else that I'll be involved with.
How'd you guys do tonight?
It was a scrappy win. We'll call it that.
Oh. Perfect. All right, thank you. And Mr. Pellin still does some track coaching for us too. So, and I like to see that they also dressed up in their Glenlawn gear. Nice, thanks. Nice job, boys. We do purposely all like to wear a lot of red when we do these meetings. Thanks, guys. Okay, we will move on. So the next set, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Story. Ben.
How are we doing? I'm assuming my mic's working?
Yep, you're good.
Thank you, Ms. Deer. Thanks for calling out the wearing red. I'm apparently the only one not wearing red tonight. So my name is Mr. Story, Benjamin Story. As Ms. Deer has alluded to, I've got a couple grade 9 dens, and I have now moved into the grade 10 system as well to kind of bring some of the experiences and some of the collective wisdom that our grade 9 team has developed over these many years. So I'm gonna really be building on a lot of what Ms. Deer said, and so one of the common threads we've heard so far is that a lot of the work we've done as a team has been to change our assessment practices and even sometimes change our teaching practices to reflect the fact that we have a collection of individuals here, not a class, but a collection of individuals, and recognizing that each student comes with their own strengths and weaknesses, and that the assessment practices we bring to them has to reflect that individuality. The flip side of this is that we also have to recognize that teachers are individuals as well. And in our conversations, we discussed how important it was that our passion, that our enthusiasm comes across as a teacher. And not only that we recognize that each class has and each student has their own passions and individualities that we need to allow to kind of blossom under our care. So what you have in front of you here, this is just a general overview of the course literacies. So math and science, if you open up this big curriculum document, it kind of has 2 layers. At the very minuscule level, you have these listed outcomes, things as simple as multiplying fractions. But the overarching ideas of the document cover these big concepts. And so as a collection of teachers, we want to make sure that students understand these big umbrella concepts we call course literacies. These are ideas like not only knowing the kind of the essential skills of science, right? Knowing what the nucleus is, knowing what an atom is, but also recognizing these bigger ideas about the nature of science and its connection to the environment. And then math being about, of course, not only problem solving, but also mental math. So the second layer of this is that each den teacher is going to be a little different in their delivery. We're going to talk about how we assess together. We've worked on building our assessment practices. But if you walked into any different den teacher's class, you will see that the delivery, the timing, and the content might change slightly depending on the teacher's passion and the student's passion at that moment. And so, pardon the analogy, but what would be a good analogy here would be a buffet. We are all attending the same restaurant, but the plates we take from the buffet are going to be slightly different depending on what we want to eat that day. So we're all taking from the same content, the curriculum guide, but we're allowing the students' passion and our passion to guide a little bit throughout the course of this year. And like Ms. Deer said, this is a long year to develop these skills, and there's lots of opportunity for students to fumble, stumble, and rebuild those skills throughout the course of the year. And now we're taking all of this idea and we're bringing it into the grade 10 system. And I must say, I absolutely love the fact that students have come into grade 10 this year that I already know and have already built this relationship with. And we just continue this process during the grade 10 year. So I'm thinking this is going to be a very successful transition for them as well.
Hey folks, my name is Jared Suderman. I'm going to take over from Mr. Story here to talk about assessment, specifically at the grade 9 and 10 level, and what you can expect and the reasons behind this. So what you can expect for assessment moving forward for feedback, it will be a strengths-based narrative. So you can expect a fair amount of words coming at you. It sounds a little bit ironic that math and science teachers have kind of left some numbers behind, but I'll explain some of the reasoning for this a little bit later on here. But what we will always do is we'll always come from a strengths-based approach that people can succeed, and all students have the power to succeed. That comes right from our very foundational documents, our foundational beliefs about education. But what might come as a little bit of a surprise is the lack of numbers that we will see in math and science moving forward. For those of us that experience more traditional grading and assessment practices, this might come as a little bit of a shock. But if we kind of think about the root of those grading and assessment practices, they were done in the Industrial Revolution, and they were done for efficiency and ability to rank students. That is certainly 100% against what we believe education is for. Modern education teaches complex problem-solving skills that we just cannot fairly and equitably assess using a percentage grade. What you can also expect is that our assessment will be ongoing throughout the year. We will never stop talking about assessment. Our learning is never over. And so where a student is right now is hopefully not where they're going to be in November, in January, in April, and in June, and every day in between there. So I really hope that we can kind of shift our thinking about assessment as something that is locked in place, or a final judgment of somebody's learning. We, again, as we've already been told, that will only happen in June, when we absolutely have to put a final percentage grade on a report card. And we even then hope that that just continues on in September, when we see your children again. So something else that, again, might be a little bit different than what us adults might have experienced is that we're going to be using a variety of different assessment tools. One of the earlier slides said, if you can name it, you can assess it. If we can discuss it, you can assess it. We all learn and demonstrate that learning in very different ways. We're each unique human beings. And so we're going to be using a variety of different mediums and techniques to assess your students' learning. And they're going to use a variety of techniques to assess their own learning. So this can be done through simply observing students in class, through learning conversations and interviews between students and teachers, through self-assessments, demonstrations and presentations, projects, name it, and we probably do it somewhere. Reflection journals, portfolios are a big part of our courses. And then some more traditional quizzes and tests will also come in there. Just we don't necessarily throw everything out if there's some merit, but we always question, what can we do that is best for students? Something that you're also going to see a lot of is the word outcome. And I just want to quickly explain that outcomes are individual skills that are determined by the Manitoba curriculum documents. So if your children talk about outcomes, that's what they're talking about, is those individual skills that are derived directly from the Manitoba curriculum document. In front of you is also some language that we're going to be using throughout the year. We see a scale there from emerging to progressing, mastering, and extending. You'll also know or notice that we use grade colors, which is just our little Glenlawn twist on things. But you'll see there that all of that language is from a strengths-based approach, where we're all on a learning journey. We all have learning to do right from the very beginning, initial conversations that we have about a topic, to extending beyond that topic, applying it, building connections to bigger, better other things. Next, we're going to see a slide about the why. Why have we done this? And first of all, words are just so much more descriptive than we can ever get with numbers. So we have two examples there in front of you, a 74% and then some words to describe that learning. That 74%, although we might think it, actually tells us very little about learning. All it tells us is that out of a 101-point scale, we somehow scored 74 points on there. It doesn't tell us what we know, and potentially more importantly, it doesn't tell us what we don't know. it tells us that we lost 26 points somewhere, 26 marks, 26 percentiles, whatever the wording that we're going to have there. But it doesn't tell us what we know and what we don't know. The next statement is a description, I use my own name, that Jared can accurately determine the square root of perfect squares up to 200. He is currently working on correctly estimating the root of non-perfect squares to 1 decimal place. So that statement is a very simple one, but it tells us both what Jared can do. He can accurately determine the square root of perfect squares up to 200. I don't know why I chose 200. And then it tells us what he can't do, what he's currently working on, and that's correctly estimating the root of non-perfect squares to 1 decimal place. We feel that this practice better reflects our belief that a growth mindset is a productive way to go about life, and that really helps instill the value of lifelong learning. If we penalize people for their mistakes, it's really hard and hypocritical to then try to make them celebrate their mistakes. And we all know that mistakes are a valuable part of the learning journey. And so that's definitely something that we think, not only are we going to talk the talk, but we also are going to walk the walk. Our assessment practices reflect the beliefs and the philosophical foundations that we believe are important for education. Learning is a journey, as Ms. Deere already alluded to, that we've changed things up from last year. And again, we're going to walk the walk. So we're going to make our practices the very, very best that they can be. And we're going to model that each and every day for students. And then lastly, the reason why we choose and continually choose to upgrade and research our assessment is we really want the focus to be on learning. We want kids and we want students to be excited about learning, and we want that to come from within. So by erasing the number and leaving that off until the very, very end of our learning together, we've now hopefully created an environment where we can really focus on that learning together. So that's all that I have for assessment.
Thanks, Jared. My name's Stefan Kron. I'm a grade 9 Den teacher as well. I'll be with you here for one slide. And we're talking about learning behaviors. So I always pitch this to my grade 9s, to my whole, pretty much any class I teach. This isn't something that's gonna necessarily result in your overall grade or your assessment on the content of what I'm teaching, but these are the things that I learn and notice about my students in terms of a job reference letter. So I tell my students, hey, use me as a job reference, but rarely do future employers call and ask me, what was your grade 9 math or science mark or skill set there, but they want to know, do you have the soft skills needed for the workplace? Are you reliable, trustworthy, on time, these kinds of things? And as teachers, we're teaching from the curriculum document, but we're also trying to model with our own lives and directly teach our students how to do well in these other aspects of life. So I'm also just going to kind of use Spirit Week as an example because I feel like it touches on so many of these things. We had to kind of do a modified Spirit Week last year because, the whole school cramming in the gym wasn't a good idea, nor is it this year. But it teaches students about belonging. They interact with other students. Sometimes we have a dance competition that they get to be a part of. Independence is worked in there when they plan their practice times. And it's all about really mastery and this collaboration, growth mindset stuff where it's all just kind of for these arbitrary Spirit Week points, but the whole school really gets into it, and it's just a really good thing for the student body. And then more recently for myself, this mindfulness piece, I'm working with my class kind of at the start of each week to kind of transition and prepare our mind and our body kind of for learning. So I also run this the video game club at Tuesdays at lunch, and usually after that, if I'm playing with the kids too, I'm a little revved up and kind of need to calm myself down. So we just do this minute of thankfulness where we'll just kind of close our eyes, focus on something we're thankful for. You know, your breathing naturally gets a little deeper, and it's just a good transition to kind of be ready to learn afterwards. So, you know, we're all passionate about teaching our content areas, but we're also passionate about teaching your children, you know, just general life skills that'll serve them well in the future as well. So that's it for me for this slide, and yeah, on to the next.
Hello, I'm Kirsten Stevenson. So I'm teaching math and science to 2 grade 10 DENs, one of essentials and one of the pre-cal applied. I wanted to chat today just about, you know, the myth that there are math people and not math people. So no one is born a math person. That's not a thing. Just like with anything else that we do in our lives, we have to, you know, work towards it with some perseverance and some creativity and you know, people to help us. So yeah, that's kind of where that growth mindset comes in. Although we might have had some, you know, not so great experiences in math, science, English, geo, social studies, whatever it may be, we can always work together to change that. Jared talked about it a little bit earlier, but making mistakes and celebrating the mistakes and, you know, collaborating on how we can change those mistakes in the future is really important in our classes. And one way that some of us do that is through the use of vertical surfaces. So for example, in my class, we work collaboratively and we solve problems on vertical whiteboards with different people every day. And what this does is it not only encourages the collaboration, but it has us making our thinking visible and having us actually practice how we explain things and why we thought what we did, how these things are all connected, which of course is very important in math, science, or the humanities. So knowing the why is always very important. And then we also were chatting about, you know, we're all together in this. So we need, you know, support from home as well as support from our DEN partners and the rest of the school, and just really modeling being open and willing to learn something new and modeling that growth mindset. So, you know, instead of saying, what did you get on the quiz or what did you get on the test or what did you learn today, maybe reframing some of that language that we use and, you know, saying like, could you have solved that in a different way? Now, you don't need to know how to do anything with math in order to ask your child, hey, is there another way you could do that? Or what concepts are you working on? What outcomes are you doing today? In terms of growth mindset, right? Like, how could we change what we've been doing, or what could we practice to help ourselves improve in this particular area? And then one that I really love is just how does that connect to something that you've learned before? So we're always building on our past knowledge and trying to expand on that. So that's a question I love to ask students. So engaging conversations with the students, and so that we're all supporting each other.
Awesome. Thank you very much to the math science crew. We will now swap over to Humanities and English. So if you have any questions right now, you can either throw them in the chat so you don't forget, or just hang on, and we're going to go through the Humanities and English, and then we will there'll definitely be a question answer period for both, for any of the subject areas or just our philosophies in general. So right now, I do just want to introduce the four that will not be speaking to English and Humanities, so you can see their faces. So Karen Machowski, Dean Rigaud, Keith Dick, and Aaron Falk. I will shut off my camera, and they can do a quick wave and hello.
Hello, everybody. Go Lions, go.
Hello.
All right, that's our crew. I guess you can see their names on your screen. So, yeah, so that's the crew that will not be speaking right now, particularly because again we'll have some choppy transitions, not because they drew the short straw or anything like that, but yeah, we will move on to the next the next slide, which is Mr. Moyes. I will pass it over to Mike.
Hi, everyone.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Moyes. I'm one of the grade 9 DEN teachers that teach social studies and English. And one of the things that we wanted to kind of bring to light tonight is what we've been doing to start off this school year. And we decided as a staff that one of the things we wanted to focus on was belonging. We acknowledge that it's been a pretty tough year, going back even more than a year, going back almost on 2 years now, with just how things are and with public health measures. And so we really wanted to focus in on welcoming back the students and ensuring that that people had that sense of community and felt that connection and in building that that relationship. So the whole staff has been working on this. It's been working really well. I think the students, if you ask your child how things are going, I think that they would acknowledge that there's an energy in the building, and I think that they're just more joyful. There just seems to be just a better feeling in the building, and that goes for staff as well. And so it's been a great start. Additionally, we've been working in some kind of key important things that have come up, including the federal election, especially in the social studies and the humanities fields, as well as the first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. So those have been kind of a focus over the first month of school. As you already know, your child is simultaneously taking some courses in English and in the humanities, which is geography and social studies, depending on what grade you're in. They mesh really well, and so you can see the course literacies there. So the humanities being evidence, connections, perspectives, and significance, and then in English being determining what the main idea is, the artistry, determining what's credible, and then reflecting on what you've done as well as and what you've learned. So they coincide a little bit easier than the math science, which is nice for us humanities and English teachers. In a sense, we're kind of applying the English skills in order to kind of learn the content of the humanities. So I'll leave it there tonight, but we're off to a good start this year at Glenlawn, and you can definitely ask any questions if you have any at the end. Thanks.
Hi, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, sorry, thanks. My computer is definitely not working very well tonight, so I'm on my phone. I do apologize. Working off of what Mike said about stuff we've been doing at the start of this year, especially in humanities, we did look at the first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. And we'll also be looking at Indigenous issues, where they stem from, what is the history in Canada, what are the global contexts of Indigenous issues, peoples and perspectives in Canada and around the world, how this affects kids now. A lot of the times, I've told kids that when we're looking at history and world events, dates and times don't necessarily make the most sense to really study. Everybody has a phone, they can check those things out. But thinking critically about how we get from the past to where we are now, when we go to look at the issues that some of our students face, and issues that they can see all around them, I think it's really important when we look at humanities as a combined effort between social studies and English to really focus on how these issues of today came to be, and the critical thinking that they need in order to do that. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take them later. I will pass this on. Thank you.
All right, good evening, folks. My name is Owen Bradshaw. I'm teaching 2 of the grade 9 ELA and social studies DENs, and I also have the privilege of being one of the grade 11 ELA and history teachers this year. As Mike mentioned earlier, the 2 courses really work beautifully together, the ELA and the humanities. I'm just going to take you through the 4 literacies here for the ELA course a little bit, because they also speak so much to the humanities, and I'm just going to speak a little bit to why they are so important and what we're hoping for our students as we get the privilege of working with them for 10 months this year. So as you can see here, you've got 4 things: main idea, artistry and technique, credibility, and reflection. And the thing with each of these is we want to look at these through the lens of the student as creator of text, because our students are definitely creators of texts, but we also are super aware that our students are consumers of texts, not just in ELA, but constantly. There is text coming at them, audio text, visual text, textual text all the time. And so it's so important for our students to be developing these skills. And we really just keep working at these 4 areas over each year, building on where our students are at every year, seeing what their strengths are and seeing where the opportunities are for them to grow and to continue developing. If I was going to boil it all down even to something a little more essential than what we've got here, I would say that we hope that our students, as they leave us, will be more capable and confident as communicators. We hope that they will be curious and critical as consumers, people who will, when faced with information, whether it agrees with how they see the world or not, be able to look at it and assess whether or not it's something that they should spend time thinking about, because there are things that we agree with that we shouldn't spend time thinking about, and things that we disagree with that maybe we should, and of course vice versa. And not to leave this out, although it does sometimes get a little forgotten as we blend the ELA and the social studies piece, we are also interested in the beauty of language. We're interested in our students enjoying the pleasure of stories. And we also want them to know that each person, each student, each one of them, each one of us has important stories to tell and can develop the capacity to tell them well. And so that in a nutshell is what we're going to be working at from the ELA perspective this year. But again, as I say, so much of that speaks into the humanities piece as well. It's just a real delight to be able to work these 2 courses together over the next 9 months with your students. So thank you for the opportunity to work with them.
Hi there. My name is Jay Perney. I have the pleasure of teaching one DEN this year, and I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of our grading scale. So the ELA, social studies, or the humanities report cards. Like Ms. Deer said, you won't see a percentage grade on anything until the very last report card in June, but you will see a number. It won't be in the mark column, but you'll see it in the comments. And essentially, it's a little bit of a scale, so that each of these categories, you kind of know what it translates to. This is on the front of the report card. And it's not just used in the humanities, it's used in grade 9, 10 phys ed as well. So that's where I spend the rest of my time at Glenlawn, is I spend it teaching phys ed. And this is something that we started even before the DENs were using it in the gym. We started to see the value of taking away that ranking when it's a really personal and performance-based activity. So again, looking at it from a more strength-based, you know, 4 down to an ND. ND essentially just means that we're having trouble really determining because we don't have enough evidence. And a 4 means that your student has a really solid understanding of the content and is able to demonstrate that using all of the skills that we've been working on. And we found this is really effective. We have very few conversations about marks anymore, and we have way more conversations with students about how they can better understand or better demonstrate that understanding. So it's something that's worked really well for us, and we're really excited to continue using it with grade 10s this year and to introduce it to the grade 9s.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. Okay, so we are moving from the academic side of things over to our other student supports in this sort of the next round of going through like our advocate system and our student support. So I'll stop for a second. Is there any questions, just so we don't lose any along the way? Any questions right now? Okay, yeah, you can go ahead. You can just unmute yourself and ask the question if you like, or you can type it in, whichever you prefer.
Okay, my name is Abiola. I have a few questions here. Thank you, first of all, for all the work you guys are doing. It's been awesome. I've heard good things from my child every day. He gets back home, he tells me I'm enjoying myself. So that's it puts my mind at rest. So thank you. Yeah, so my question with all the assessments and the grades, I listed some, so I'll start with this one. So if there is no grade, how do we know if this percentage in the end will be okay? You know, I'm thinking when I know in first term that he's at 60% and my, the target is 100%. So how do I know to start working on that with him to get into that point? And I know you also mentioned the assessment, right? So maybe I'll let you answer that first, and then I'll come up with the next one.
Yeah, no. So to wonder where they are in terms of a percentage, if you're looking at a scale, so is if a child is working, say, in the green, if you're talking math and science, then you can think about it in a similar scale of trying to get to sort of if your end result is 100%, if that is, or in the 100% range, if that is success for your child, because success means different things to different children, then you can start to look at those color codings and where you want, where a child wants to continue to progress. You'll also see in the comments when we do the report cards, you might see something like, Dion is at a 3. This is how she can get to a 4. And so you could equate that to a percentage on the front of the report card. Or I'm at a 4, and this is how I remain at a 4 or continue to develop. Or I'm at emerging, and this is how I would move to the next stage. So when you're reporting, that's how it'll sound. Those are what the comments will look like in that. And also your child, it's amazing your child is actually quite clear or would know very much where they are, like where they sit in terms of their success. So it's yeah, they know they can explain it probably better than anyone. The kids talk to their teachers a lot about it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, and I'll just try to summarize the next one here. So, does the teachers have that much time to spend with each kid and be able to continuously assess them? Because that's a lot to be able to sit down, which, I mean, I don't know how many kids they have in a class, and some of them teach 2 classes, right? So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, they work really hard at organizing their time to get to time with children. Not every child every day, but there's also educational assistants in the dens that help with that. And they find other ways to demonstrate their learning, right? So they might be doing some of that, after a class if they're handing in something. So that's where they're getting, and that's why you have all year with the student. That's why we have them all year, is to be able to have that time to really get to know a child's learning. So if you didn't see it originally, you can always go back and check again. I'm going to go to and answer the question in the chat. Sorry, I'll come back if you have another one. But the question in the chat was, how does this system prepare them for post-secondary? So lots of the research is showing post-secondaries many of the places are not using percentage grades either. So engineering at University of Saskatchewan, places like that, the percentages are coming off. for sure in their assessment practices. One of the main researchers we use, it's called Ungrading. The book that we use, 4 chapters are about high school, 8 chapters are about the universities that are not using grading anymore as well. When we're preparing, if we mean preparing in terms of how do they write an exam, if that's what we often think about in terms of preparation. Again, depending on what institution you're going to and what faculty, that is also starting to go by the wayside. In other cases, they're still using it, depends on the institution. But getting a kid to prepare for learning and how to study or how to actually learn something as opposed to just memorizing for a moment in time. Those are skills that we work on all the time here. And we also provide kids opportunity to write large scale, high stakes assessments in sort of math competitions and things like that, so that they can, if that's what they want to do and that's how they want to show their learning, or just have a competition about their academics because that's what they like to do, they're good at it, then we do provide those opportunities as well. So it depends on the institution, and in the end, there is a grade that comes out of that for sure. And then we work with our institutions that need percentage grades early, middle of grade 11. Sometimes they'll want a percentage grade for predetermining scholarships and things. So we make sure that we work with our institutions with that. Okay. Are there any systems to see the grades and the progress of childs? How could we know about these kinds of activities and achieve the goals of learning? I'm not sure I understand the question in fully. So the report card will hopefully help, but as well as just having a conversation with the child. But we also communicate, if you're not sure where your child's sitting in their learning, the teachers are more than willing to have a phone conversation with you to sort of talk through what their assessments are currently of your child's learning and their progress, for sure. Okay, other ones for sure you can throw in the chat. We're going to go on to the next slides and we'll definitely come back. So just yeah, we'll come back. We'll go through in case some folks do have to leave. We'll get through the rest, and then those that want to ask questions and hear the answers, absolutely stick around. So I'm just going to shoot to the next slide. And Christine's going to take over. We're just going to talk about our advocate system.
Hi there, I'm Christine Stevenson, one of the vice principals here. And I'm going to talk a little about the student advocate system. It was created many years ago to ensure that each student had at least one trusted adult in their corner here at school. So each student is then assigned an advocate in grade 9, and they keep with that advocate for their entire time at Glenlawn with that same person. So they get to meet with their advocate sometimes, like this year on the first day of school. In November, they'll meet with their advocate after the report card. So sometimes individually, sometimes in small groups. And it's really an opportunity for that person to help each student navigate the sort of social and academic complexities of high school. That advocate can be their go-to problem solver. If your advocate happens to be an English teacher, maybe they can't help you with that chemistry outcome, but they sure can help you find some assistance with that, right? So they're a bit of a bridge that can help with either the academic pieces or all the other intricacies of high school. And it is at graduation when that advocate hands the diploma to the student. And I've been to many Glenlawn convocations, and that's a pretty sweet moment that's built on years of building that strong relationship to support that student throughout their time here at Glenlawn. So there's, as it says on the slide there, there's multiple roles for that advocate, other than advocating for that student, but looking for registration and general support. The grade 9 advocates, our grade 9 students met their advocate live and in person on the first day of school this year, and you can see the list there. And they will stay with those advocates throughout their time here at Glenlawn. Those are the grade 10 advocates. And again, these grade 10 students have had these advocates for a year already, unless that advocate has moved on. For instance, Elliot McDonald is a new teacher here at Glenlawn, replacing Levi Sobering. So there's the occasional retirement where a new advocate is put into place, but otherwise it's that same person that is their go-to for their time here at Glenlawn.
Start again, Miss Friesen. You're muted.
Thank you. I'll start again. Hi, everyone. I'm Carly Friesen. I'm the grade 9 student services teacher. Now, over the past couple weeks, I've been both in and out of classes, getting to know students, and of course, working closely with teachers to help support a smooth transition to high school. As Mr. Moyes and a few other teachers have mentioned earlier tonight, the move to Glenlawn is going really well so far for our grade 9s. There have only been a few lost Pago cards or lunches left behind on the counters at home. And as we kind of sit in and we see our students settle into the new routine, they're making new friends and certainly developing new interests. As they do these things, please don't hesitate to ever be in touch if there's any questions or concerns that arise from home. In the coming weeks, teachers and I will be getting together to develop some class profiles. And what these will do is help us to ensure that we're meeting the needs of all of our students in the classroom setting, both through teacher support from myself and our divisional team, but as well as the EAs who are such a huge support in our classes. Again, as the days move forward, I really look forward to meeting each of the grade 9s and of course, working closely with you guys, our families and our caregivers. Thanks, guys.
Oh, hi everyone. Hi, my name's Lorraine Marie O'Connor, and I am the student services teacher for grade 10s. As most of you know, I started with our grade 9s last year, and I get to follow them through grade 10 up until graduation. And I have to say that it was really neat to see the kids come into the building this year looking a little bit older and some kids a lot taller, going from being eye level with them to having to look up. It's really cool. Lots of energy in the building as we go from half days to full days in the classroom, as well as lots of sports and extracurriculars getting underway. It's really good to see so many of our grade 10s, taking a chance, exploring new things and getting involved. And I think it's just going to get better. I also think it's fair to say that for our 10s, I think that this year is very much like their first year of high school, just because it's so very different for them with all the opportunities. It's exciting for them. It feels kind of normal, but at the same time, it is a lot of change for them. They're going half days to full days. They're going from having half the kids in the class to a full class of kids. Trying to navigate, what does lunchtime at Glenlawn in the building look like? So I just want to reassure you that we know that although all these things are exciting and kind of represent being normal, we know that it is change for kids, and just want to reassure you that we are here to support kids as they, experience different emotions with kind of the full return to classes, as they, try to navigate, the way maybe some friendships changed. Know that the support is here and will continue to be here. Just as Carly said, another part of my job is just continuing to work with classroom teachers in making and ensuring good learning environments with kids and meeting all the needs. Know that I look forward to continuing to see and being involved with the growth of our kids as they grow this year. And also know that if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me and I should be able to answer them for you. And then I'll just say thank you for coming tonight and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so we really have 2 slides left. It's just this one which you've seen before, and then another one that just says ask a question if you haven't. So those are the only 2 slides left. So I just I'm going to answer the question about homework. Okay, so what research has shown about homework that it doesn't increase student success really at all. What homework can do is have them practice skills that we can't see as educators, and they might be practicing that skill not in a productive way. If it's so we don't need to repeat something over and over and over again if a kid has it, and if they don't have it and they don't understand it, they need their educational kind of partner, whether it's a teacher, an EA, or student services, along with them to gain that understanding. Can kids do some work at home? Absolutely. Reviewing some material, getting ready for something that might look more traditional in terms of having to show your learning, working on a project, doing something together as a partner, that type of thing. But what you won't see is that repetitive action of, I need you to do this in order to gain a mark that I can't see whether you did it or you didn't do it. So that's what you don't see anymore. So yeah, so they, and because the courses are year long, there's more chance to practice. You might see kids practicing more in a course where it's semestered. So they are just needing a little bit more work. But again, if they're practicing at home because they don't know the content well enough, they can't practice it at home either because they don't have their partner to help or their guide on the side to help. So sometimes it's just not productive work at home. So yeah, that's the answer about homework. There was a couple more things in the chat. Sorry, it's long, so I'll just read it. If somebody has another question, open your mic and certainly ask it. Okay, perfect. So thank you for adding those experiences of having kids here and sort of how it's sort of worked out. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Do you have any other questions or any more? When the students were supposed to be in class, simultaneously have the ability to leave the class to work outside the classroom independent of the teacher. I'm not sure exactly what, I'm not sure exactly what that question is. Liam's mom, because unless it's Liam that's logged in. So you can open up your mic if you want to ask it differently. Sorry. Again, I'm looking sideways because my thing is this way. That's why I'm not looking at my other screen.
Just to elaborate a little bit more on that, Dion, thanks for offering me the mic. Just more what I'm hearing from Liam is that when he's in class during scheduled class time, if there's activities underway, my assumption as a parent is a kid is in class, but what I often hear from him is that if there's occasion for the class to do so, sometimes classmates, including himself, are frequently leaving the class to go work independently, which is fine, but I just wonder, should they not be in a classroom setting if they're supposed to be learning during those intervals of time?
Yeah, so that would be something specific that we can talk about after and just see what it is that they're doing during those times when they're leaving, like when that is and what is the expectation that they're doing. I would have to look way more into that just to see what it is that they're doing and when they're leaving the classroom. Yeah, but we can absolutely look into that. We can have a conversation about that. No, it's okay. No, I'll just have to learn more about what that situation is happening.
Okay, fair enough.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Thanks. Post-secondary, how does it then model particularly having classes in the whole year, prepare them for university in a very short and condensed? Okay, so the DEN system, what it does is build a skill set in grade 9 and grade 10 to hopefully be able to be more confident academic learners, have more of an academic foundation so that when you get into grade 11 and grade 12 and things start going at a faster pace, that you can keep up with that and you have a foundational skill set that will find you to be more successful. In a university, things go faster, yes, but depending on how many courses you're taking, depends on how much time you have in class versus out of class. Kind of work in post-secondary. Our post-secondary numbers are about 18%. The last time we did data, 18% of our students go to post-secondary. So although post-secondary is important, we have a lot of students that do not attend post-secondary. And post-secondary looks different, university, college. So we're trying to build skill sets that are successful everywhere. For that, we also, when we're choosing courses, I'll just bring this up a little bit, especially in the math end, we're trying to have kids develop in a math that is beneficial to them moving forward, as well as where they're successful. So all roads don't lead to pre-cal. It's not, and I often sort of, I'm very involved in hockey, so I often like do a similarity to hockey, is that it's not like pre-cal is not AAA hockey. We don't all want to get there. Yes, some are there, some are successful there, some should be playing that, but some are successful playing high school, some are successful playing A2 hockey, and that is just fine. It doesn't make it you a better or worse academic student or person. People just need to be where it works, and where a map, and not all. You don't pre-cal doesn't leave every door open. It's also something we often hear. It closes lots of doors, and especially closes someone's confidence in being successful at school, in particular at math. So we really do. We use our student support, Ms. Friesen, Ms. O'Connor. Do we need a math for a certain career path you're headed for? Don't you? Which math is it? So we try to build foundations to make good academic choices, and therefore be able to be successful at school, whether it's post-secondary or a college or a workforce or any of those things. Do we see a percentage of their electives at the end of the first semester, or are those just comments until the end of the year? Yes, so you won't see a percentage in their electives either until the end. You'll see, you'll most likely see more of the phys ed look, phys ed and English humanities with the 1 to 4 system. That's what you'll see as well. So you'll see a range in there, and again, how to get to the next range and how to continue to be as successful as they're already being. What will exams measure, or do the kids still do exams? No, they don't do exams in the traditional way, for sure. We don't, the whole division does not allow any one assessment practice or grading practice to be more than 10% of someone's entire overall mark, just so that there's not that sort of big, high stakes cumulative exam. So it's not, there might be things that are larger, and that's to build a skill set in kids to be able to show their multiple learning over and over, and progress sort of what's the next thing you learned and put it all together into one sort of document, whether that's an exam looking traditional thing, whether that's a project, but not sit down 3-hour, I memorized my stuff exam. No, none of that. That doesn't happen anymore. And there's no provincial exams at the moment. There used to be provincial exams at grade 12. There's nothing at the moment. There will never be in grade 12. The province is talking about doing something at the grade 10 level, but we'll see. It's great to see how education has evolved since we were in high school, recognizing this in a different way. Yes, thank you. It has evolved, and we are trying to be progressive, and we are seeing a more we're trying to not see as many mental health concerns with our youth. It's real. We see it every day, and we don't want to add to that on an academic side. So building confidence in their academics will hopefully build confidence in the rest of their time as a teenager, because it's not easy, as you all know as parents. And grade 10, for all that thought grade 9 was hard, grade 10 is really hard, and it'll get better. That's all that's all I'll say to that. Are there no exams at any grade level? In the traditional sort of sit down way exam period, no, there's not at any grade level. No. Any other questions through the chat or that was just my last slide, was this? Or somebody wants to open up their mic, either or. How long has this assessment been? We have been doing the grade 9 assessing this way for since 2016. Ben, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I have a path that shows us all of our assessment. I think it's 2016, the first time Ben Story did this kind of as a pilot in his own class. And I recall that when the first parent conferences after this, I can vividly still remember Mr. Story coming and I've never seen a man so excited about how he got to just talk about the kids learning and not about a percentage. Another story that a teacher said the first time they went away from not putting a number on the front of a kind of a, it was, I think, an essay that they handed back. It wasn't like they got 15 out of 20. It was just the comments. It was the first time the class had ever been silent when something was sent back, and the kids were just reading their comments instead of saying, hey, what'd you get? What'd you get? What'd you get? So there's really been some pretty great moments watching kids who have you know, just reach a potential that we never thought they could, because it wasn't 86 is good enough, because it's just not good enough. Let's try again if we know that you can do better. So it really does help in all aspects for all kids. Are there still, I'm going to answer the next thing, but what I'm going to do, sorry, is I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint because I don't have a PowerPoint anymore. I am going to, there, I'm going to put this so I'm looking straight on and I can see the questions. Honors and AP classes, no, there's not. There's not those courses in terms of the only difference we have in any sort of I guess path is, so we have something called dual credit English. So kids do pick a dual credit if they are looking to do their university level English in grade 12. So what you'll see is a dual credit English in grade 11. What that does is kind of amps up the amount of English content and responsibility that they have to do in grade 11. So then when they go to grade 12, they would take grade 12 English in the first semester, and then the university English, 6 credit hour university English in second semester. So that's the only path that heads in a traditional looking way of heading right to post-secondary. So that's the only thing you'll see. Other questions? Explain the English part again. So yeah. Okay, for math. Okay, so the math, what happens after grade 10 for grade 10 math is there's 3 choices for math. So in grade 9, with the outcome-based math, kids were very much aware of what outcomes they were really good at math and which ones they maybe weren't as strong at. So when they went into grade 10 math, either essentials or intro to applied pre-cal, they knew where there would be some struggles and there would be some successes. So it doesn't say you have to go this way or you have to go that way, but if a kid they would just know. They just know their math and how well they're doing and where they're going to have to put in some work. From grade 10 to grade 11, the math teachers again have all year to work on that skill set. And the kids have all year to understand where their love of math is and where the stuff that is a bit more frustrating for them. So then there's 3 levels of math they can choose. And so they'll hopefully make a very informed decision about where they would go. So pre-cal math, applied math, or essentials math. And then we find more success at math. So again, the pre-cal is not the end all and be all if that's not what is going to lead down, if you don't need to go into engineering or want to go into engineering, or the courses that might need that particular math. It's also important to know that if you're going to go into education at U of W, you need 2 Englishes. So like there's different things that you need to know if when you're going to post-secondary, and that's where Miss Friesen and Miss O'Connor come in. But the math teachers are very, very good at making sure that kids are in the sort of are finding the right spot. I mean, not everything is perfect, and we make some changes when necessary, but that's how we help work with the math. And then the English is, if you want to take your university level English, at the end of grade 12, you start on a dual credit path, it's called, dual credit English in grade 11, just to sort of start prepping you for that. I see a hand up. Yeah, you can go ahead and just unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry, my chat isn't working for some reason.
That's okay.
I'm just wondering where this presentation is going to be available so my husband can watch it.
Okay. Well, it gets. Mr. Studeman probably knows this more than anything, but it gets put into this Teams like. If you can access this Teams afterwards, it'll be there. But I'll also post it if I can. I'll find a way. Shoot me an email after just to remind me to get it to you if it's not coming up on this sort of, if you can't open this chat window in the Teams after.
Okay, that would be excellent. Thank you. It's been a wonderful presentation. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks. Longer, sorry people, longer than I thought it would. But first of all, I talked too much at the beginning, and I would rather spend all night chatting about this. We actually do love chatting about assessment here, which I know is a bit weird, but we like our education too.
And I could listen to all night to your passion. So you keep talking.
Okay, so I see a chat. Okay, yeah, you can go ahead. I'm going to read this question at the same time, but go ahead first. Yeah. Okay, so Jessica's question about teams. Is there an easy way for us to know what skills they are working on? So if you can't get into that Teams that well, then shoot the teachers an email and they will like quickly get back to you about this is what we're working on right now. These are the topics you can talk about with your child. Like I always like to know like what they're working on so I can start a conversation in the car. Like, hey, what do you do? Like, what is the topic of, conversation right now, or what's your topic? So if the teachers will shoot that back to you instantly if you're wondering. So just go into who their DEN teachers are, and if you have some time with your child, then you can be prepared for the conversation. The hand was up. Did you still want to talk on the mic? You can go ahead if you want.
I was just more struggling to understand, just knowing, yes, some universities have moved away from some exams, but a huge proportion of universities, not only in Manitoba, but abroad as well, certainly have an exam process that is grounded with the grade system. So I just, I'm feeling just a little concerned, maybe rightfully or wrongfully, around the school's practice around not preparing students for those types of environments should they decide later on to go those routes, because I just worry how they would be well equipped to succeed in those environments if they've never been exposed to them through this type of learning model.
Yeah, so what I would say to that is so we are trying to prepare them in terms of academic rigor and trying again and again and again to succeed. And that something is just not, their percentage grade isn't just sort of enough. So we want them to keep going back and to build their skills. So this is a way to do that. Them practicing how to write an exam. Universities do a great job on teaching kids how to do university, just like we teach kids how to do high school. So they get better at high school in grade 9 and in grade 10 and grade 11 and grade 12. They get better at it as they go through high school. Universities are good at it as well, teaching kids on how to do university, how to write papers the way that profs want to see them, how to write exams in an efficient way and prepare for them. There's lots of courses that teach them how to do that when they're at an age that they can learn that. At 14 and 15, 13, 14, 15, it hasn't shown us that building that skill to write an exam has even helped them in grade 12 over the years, let alone when they go to university. So we work on the skill sets that we can here at high school to have them be more successful as a high school age, 14 to 18, and universities pick it up where we left it off, and they help build skills in students from 18 to 22 or 32 or 42, like some of us that are still going to university. We got better at it as we went through that process. So I have trust in them that they will do that as well. And we hopefully are building kids confident enough to take on university. We want them to go to post-secondary, be confident enough to believe that they can do it. And if they've been successful here at high school, we hope that they'll just take on that challenge. So that's how our belief system is here, and that's what our research is showing us at the moment. We do hope to, though, by saying that, like, is always go back to our grads and see the success rate as they move forward. It's just really hard to get to them because we use an email address that is tied to LRSD. So we try to get them to change those things, and so we can go back and do research after they've left to see their success, because we do want them to be successful. Absolutely. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
There we go. Just to tag on to what you were saying there, Dion, as a student who when I went to high school, we still had exam exemptions. So I was exempted from my exams pretty much all the way through high school. And that did not affect my ability to succeed or not succeed in high school or in university. In fact, I think the fact that I was always at the top of my class and focused on my marks so much. Once I got to university, you don't have that same, hey, what'd you get, what'd you get, what'd you get? And I got a little lazy as opposed to somebody who was just always trying to better myself. I did finally learn that later on to change that. But writing exams is not the be all end all at university at all. So just to confirm what you guys are doing there, for any parents who are concerned, I didn't write exams in high school. Struggled a little bit my first year of college because of that, but got back into it and excelled once I got to university. So
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kelly, for the note in the chat. Okay, anyone else? As you all know, that I'm absolutely accessible anytime, most of the time, day or night, for those that have had to get a hold of me, which is totally fine. I'm a mom too, and I know as a parent, it's much easier to get some questions answered in the moment. So you all have my email. My cell number is at the bottom of my email address always as well, and we're very accessible here at school to have your questions answered as quickly as we possibly can. So if there's any other questions, I'm certainly more than happy to stay on and answer them. Otherwise, those that do want to go, you can go out at any point, but I'll take a couple more, and yeah, we'll go from there. How does the grading system help the kids that want to sit for an SAT and under the international exams? So kids do write SATs. They have here in the past, and they've been very successful at them. So I don't, there's not a lot of kids that write an SAT, but there's certainly some. And again, it's about learning how to prep, knowing your content. Like, we want kids to know content that is not Googleable. Like, how can you, like, what information do you know? How do you go find credible information, as Owen was talking about? That is what that's what we're trying to instill in kids. So the kids that are writing those kinds of exams are usually successful academic students with our help. But we're often successful before we go, as much as we'd like to take credit for them, are very successful at academia most of the time anyways. So we're guides on the side. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. I think that is probably it for the night then. I think we're good. So thank you everyone for sticking it out. This has actually been awesome. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. I wish you could have done it in person, but another time. Good night all.